The first step of the process was to model the truck. To do that, I created a curve network that I then started filling between the curves with faces to create the main shape of the body. I then extruded some vertices to create the character lines of the vehicle, and then tightened those edges using edge loops and the bevel modifier to add more character and make the corners sharper. I use this technique on all of my vehicles because it's super quick, it's very easy to iterate on designs, and I'm just used to it as well. So I continued doing the same thing for the front of the body and cut out the holes for the headlights and the main grille that will be there. At this point I only had a rough image in my mind of what I wanted the truck to look like, so it's very much an iterative design process. I used the same thing for the back, and I added a bit less detail on this one because I knew it wouldn't be as visible in the final render. I then started cutting out the holes for the wheels. Normally I would use a base mesh for this, but in this case, since it was a quick project, I didn't want to lose time on this. I added a front bumper, made some materials for the headlights, and added more details to the front. I then started making the turret that will be on the back of the truck. At the end it will be like a harpoon turret. I had this idea in my mind of like a fishing coastal guard patrol truck, and so I had a rough idea of what I wanted to look like. So I created some like rocket tubes that would house the harpoons inside. I then tried some little design ideas I had in mind to connect them and to make the turret more interesting. And I added some spools that would house the cable that would connect to the harpoons. I then played with the orientation, the placement of them, and tried to get a look that I had in mind that would be interesting to look at and still look semi-functional. I imported assets from BlenderKit and found this harpoon gun that I edited to only keep the harpoon, and then put it in the barrel of the gun and modified it a bit. For the base of the turret, I downloaded the turret from BlenderKit that I edited a little bit to fit my needs better, and that I then used on my model. Since I don't use blueprints, I'm editing the body as I go to fit what I have in mind, and change the design as I go. As you can see, I reworked the front to give it a bit more personality. I then added some more details to the turret to make it a bit more interesting. Give it a bit more height to give it a little bit more visibility in the final render. I then started working on some headlights that will give a lot of personality to the truck. So that's a very important part. In this case I didn't add too much details to them yet. Only using an emissive plane with some slight texture to it. At this point I had this mood board to guide me during the scene phase, and using assets from BlenderKit I started playing with the scene layout. I added a boat that I wanted to have in the background, add some lampposts, a fishing crate, barrels, and everything that could help me build the story of a fishing dock. I added the silhouette that will be in the foreground to kind of guide the eye and block some of the frame. Added some seats and details to the interior of the truck, because in CG you can't afford to not have details, and I wanted to block some lights on the inside of the vehicle, and it would be quicker to do it in Blender than in Photoshop. I then started tweaking the ground and added a gradient plugged into the value of the color to kind of make it darker in the foreground and lighter as it goes towards the truck. The idea behind this was to kind of guide the eye of the viewer and remove some distraction from the foreground. After that I started adding some more details to the truck, on the windows and on the windshield. After which I started playing with some lamps to kind of enhance the look of the scene, change the background a little bit, and I used the lamppost as kind of a reason to justify the use of stronger lamps on the side to add some key lights. This required quite a bit of tweaking, but I was happy with the result for now. I then added wheels from BlenderKit to the truck to add some more details again. And I started playing with the compositor to add a mist pass and a cryptomate that would allow me to create masks for Photoshop. I then wanted to add some more details to the foreground, such as pebbles and rocks, but Blender crashed. After restarting Blender, I started working on the foreground as well, added some ground fog, again from Blender Kit, but you could easily make it with a noise texture and a volume cube. I started again adding details to the truck, such as the door handle, because since it's the focus point, you need a certain amount of details to make it interesting, because the focus is on this object. I added some rope to give it a bit more personality. The rope is again from Blender Kit. I added then a roof light bar, some sort of things like that. Again, the light is from Blender Kit. I use this add-on all the time, and it's super handy for HDRIs, models, and textures. I then started adding some mud splashes to the truck, but you can see that this will give mixed results. The better way would have been to do it in Substance Painter, like I do at the end. So if I was to redo this project, I would skip it entirely. I then added a windshield wiper that I took from a car I'm modeling right now. And it's quite a great system with a lattice projected onto the windshield with a shrink wrap modifier that allows you to quickly edit it super easily. I then added some more dirt to the windshield area with a mask that I made in Photoshop to control the areas where I wanted dirt to be. I then brought it back in Photoshop and started playing with the overall composition. You can see that the sky now is transparent because I didn't like the look of the HDRI, so it allows me to use my own. I then added some wave crashing down on the shore of the dock to give it a bit more drama, and it works surprisingly well, I must say. It also allows to kind of detour the silhouette of the truck and make it read better. So I removed the boat, the CG boat, because I didn't like the look of it, and replaced it with an image one. I then blurred it with some cloud brush and tried to make it a bit more distant and take less attention. I then darkened the foreground once again and added a little bit more details. And you can really see how it makes kind of a vignette effect that really guides the eye towards the truck. And this is the final image that I got with this composition, but I wasn't that happy with the look of it, and so I went back into Blender to change the camera angle and started reworking the scene. I also wanted to change the direction of the light, because right now the truck was not in such emphasis. And so tweaking with the HDRI once again, tweaking the colors, adjusting. I also wanted to give the CG boat another chance, but you will see that in the end it didn't work out. There's simply too much details that would need to be added, and those details are already found on pictures, so I prefer to use it for rapidity's sake in Photoshop. I played with color of the mist, added some logos to the truck to make it a little bit more interesting, give it some personalities, and played with some more lights again. And you could see that already the truck was popping out a lot more, was a lot more interesting, the colors were more vivid, and we already got a more pleasant image without going into Photoshop. I tweaked the sky again, but you will see I end up using a picture for the sky. Tried other colors for the truck, but the yellow was the one I had in mind at the beginning, and it was the one that looked better. Added some more trash to the ground, tried to place more, to make the scene more interesting. I then used the particle system to control the distribution of that trash, added some white paint to then guide the areas where I wanted them to be, as you can see here. I picked only the little trash objects. I didn't want like 2,000 bricks to be laying around. It wouldn't have made any sense. So here's where I painted it, added some more trash, and back into Photoshop for the final edit. I used two cloud images, one for the background mountains and one for the sky. I then reused the both image, detoured it once again, tried to do it quickly, and then with a cloud brush I would start masking some of the boat to kind of make it look as if it was more distant, attract less attention. I added some God rays afterwards, tried to mask the areas of where they were impacting. And because the waves added such drama last time, I wanted to do it again. So I took the same image and detoured it again, and then added it in the background, and you can see how much of a difference it makes. It truly kind of binds all the images together and the render and the 2D images behind. I then added some water drops around with a little water droplet brush. It didn't have too much of an effect, probably could have skipped it, but I thought it was an interesting idea. At this point the image was starting to look quite flat, so I tried to tweak the colors using a curve effect. Not sure what they're called, Photoshop. And you could see that the image was starting to really come along, and it was looking quite nice already. At this point the background was too foggy, so I tried to add another sky, tried to change it a little bit and make it more visible behind all of the clouds. I added some rain overlay, probably could have done it better, but I was happy with the result. It's supposed to be a quick project after all. I then added more details to the truck with mirrors from a truck I modeled for. Changed the rim design a little bit. I then started playing with some lights, tried to add more details to the headlights of the vehicle. Because a lot of the attention is guided and directed towards the headlights, so it's very important that you have at least some details to them. I then UV unwrapped the model quickly and exported it in Substance Painter to create some mud splashes. I added that texture again to the truck. And afterwards it was ready for a final Photoshop pass. And that was the end result, before some color grading and final touches. Because you can see the image is quite flat here, but afterward I tweaked the colors, and this is the final image. And I'll see you next week.